Hello everyone, it's Kathy and welcome back in my craft room and here on my YouTube channel, Kathy's Random Acts of Stampin'. Thanks again for tuning in. I hope that I can inspire you today. We are going to look at a Christmas stamp set and die set that's in the mini catalog, and when I looked at this catalog, this was the first thing that took my eye, was this beautiful little barn. I think it was so cute, and I have to admit that I have struggled with this. Even though it was my favorite when it first appeared in the catalog, it was the #1 thing on my list. Once I got it, I really kind of struggled with how to do it. I have stamped this out several times and I've tried different colors on my barn, which was what I was thinking I wanted, but in the long run it wasn't. So I made up my mind that I was going to make this stamp work. And if you have a stamp set in your stash that's like that, I challenge you to sit down with it and see what you can do. Here's my stamp loaded up on my block, and I'm going to get a piece of white scrap paper. We can just use some scrap paper for this because we're going to be die cutting these. I'm just going to grab a piece like this. I'm going to move the stamps out of my way, and I want to stamp my barn, but I think I'm going to cut this down. This is actually a half a sheet of cardstock, so I'm going to cut this down to 4 1/4. This will give me a piece that's a little more manageable, plus it'll give me that other piece for some of my die cuts that I have in mind. Okay, we're going to go ahead and ink this up, and I'm going to ink it in Memento Tuxedo Black ink. And because I'm working with a photopolymer stamp set, I am going to grab my Stampin' Pierce mat because I want that under it to give me a good impression. Now, you can always use your Stamparatus if you rather, but I think we'll be okay with this. And see how pretty it is once you ink it up. You see all that texture and lines and things that just makes this a beautiful stamp. So I'm going to sit it about like this down toward the bottom of this, and I'm just going to give it a good press. And we have a beautiful barn. Now, y'all know me, so I'm going to be cleaning stamps in between. So if you don't like to watch me clean my stamps, you can fast forward. And there may be places in the video that I'll cut out the cleaning, but not for my first one because I find it so important for people to clean their stamps. Now, one other thing I wanted to add to this, see this beautiful little horse-drawn carriage with the people in it? I want that on my card. So I'm going to go ahead and stamp that up here because we're going to color. And I'm going to try to do this in a way that will not bore you to death, because for me, some people love it. They find that sitting and watching someone color is very relaxing. I'm not that person. I like to get on with the card. I want to see the technique. I want to see how you did it. So I try to do that with my videos. I don't always succeed, but I do try. So those are my 2 images that I've gotten stamped out. And I think that's all we're going to... Well, we are going to need to stamp again, but not for a minute. Okay. So now that I've got those 2 done, I am going to pull in some Stampin' Blend markers. I have one Stampin' Right marker, and I'll show you why I'm using it. But here are my blends. And I have a dark crumb cake, and I have a light crumb cake. I have a light and dark soft suede. I have my color lifter, and I have the ivory. So let's try these and see what we get, and we're going to concentrate first on the barn. So I want to go in with my light, and y'all know I always grab my bifocals or my little readers when I'm coloring. I don't know what it is. I see fine, but there's something about when I'm doing this fine line coloring, I really prefer to have on my bifocals. So anyway, I'm going to turn this over and I'm going to use my alcohol markers, and this is the dark. I want to start out with the light. Grab the wrong one. This is ivory. That's not it, so it must be this one. Light crumb cake. And I'm going to use my brush. I'm going to use my brush tip on this because I want to put color just all over. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a small portion of this, and then I'm going to show you what it looks like after I get it colored. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to put and you want to try to stay away from that eve. You see, that's why I have my color lifter, because if you get a color where you don't want it, you can come in with this and just pull that color back. And didn't let my ink dry quite enough, so I've got a little bit of a smudge there, but it's okay. So just continue to color in your barn. And I'm only doing a small portion. I just want to show you how I did this. Then I'm going to come back in with my dark crumb cake, and I'm just going to put in a few lines just to give it that old, and you could even do that before you color. Something like that, and then we're going to go back over it with our light crumb cake and just kind of blend it. And you can see that's going to give you that old worn look on your barn, and when that dries it's going to lighten. We're also going to go in with the dark soft suede, and if you want to add a little bit more depth, you can do that just by putting some lines in with this. And go back with that light crumb cake and blend it. Don't be afraid to mix your colors in blending. And you can see that already is giving you that old, and when that dries, it's going to dry much lighter. Alcohol markers dry a little bit darker. Are a little bit darker. So once I finish, this is what my barn looks like. And I used my red Stampin' Right to go around the doors and the barn doors and the windows. And this worked good for me because you have a small writing tip and you have a brush tip on this, but it's a little bit finer and easier to use than the one in the alcohol-based markers. And because this is water-based, the Stampin' Rights are water-based and the Stampin' Blends are alcohol. So there is a difference in the way they color, but when I'm doing a little fine area that I don't want the color to bleed out, alcohol markers have a tendency to bleed out. And if you're dealing with a small area, that's what you'll get. The other thing that I did with my dies, you have this little snowbank. And I cut 2 snowbanks, and I wanted to do this without boring y'all with the die cutting, so I already have that done. And I also colored my little horse-drawn carriage. My horse, I did him in the soft suede, light and dark, and I did my my little sleigh is done in basic gray, and then I just came in with the sweet sorbet, did the little blanket, and then I did mossy meadow and orchid oasis for the coloring on their clothes and blankets. So that is done. These pieces are done. The only thing we have left to do is in the stamp set there is this sentiment that says may joy fill your heart this season. And I love that because this is a joyful season. If you are a Christian, this marks the beginning of when God set in place which it was set in place years and years and thousands of years prior to Jesus's birth. But we have to remember that our time is not his time. So with that being said, I took that stamp set and I stamped it on my card mat, and I stamped it up in this corner. And you might ask, how do you know where you wanted to stamp it? Well, I laid my pieces out on my card, something like this. And then I realized that that was an area that I was going to be able to need something there. Now I also use these small dies. These are little tiny dies, and they do stars and snowflakes is what I want to call them. I think here is what I cut out. And we are going to, after we get everything down, we're going to glue these onto this card. I love the way this card has turned out. You see how quick. I mean, yes, I did have this pre-colored, but coloring to me is very relaxing. And I found this card just to be absolutely a joy to put together. And I'm so glad that I was finally able to use my Christmas barn. I'm going to zoom y'all in just a hair so you can better see. And what I'm going to do now is I want to go ahead and get these snowbanks down. And I'm going to put these down, the first one with liquid glue. So I'm just going to take my liquid glue and put on the back of this. And we're going to put this one down right to the bottom. Just give it a good press. And I'm going to grab some Stampin' Dimensionals. I have one on this card, so we're going to use it first. And I'm going to put one here. I'm going to put one in the middle. And let's see if we can get one to work right here. Yep, I think that'll work. So I'm going to take the backers off of these. Okay, and it's not going to bother me a bit that that has a little frayed under it, because I'm going to set the little horse and carriage on top of that, and I think that's going to be beautiful, and it's going to give dimension, and it doesn't matter that if it's a little roughed up underneath. So now that we have this where we want to decide where we want our barn. I think I do want my barn popped up as well, so I'm going to bring back in my Stampin' Dimensionals, and I'm going to pull off several of them. Something like this. If you notice, I do use a lot of dimensionals, but the last thing I want to do is send a card to someone and it self-destruct in the mail or after they get it. I mean, how embarrassing would that be? So, I'm going to set this, let's smooth that just for a minute. So I want to decide exactly where I want this barn to sit. Oh, not there. Maybe right about here. Something like that. Now all we need to do is go and put our glue on the bottom edge of this piece. So I'm just going to take my glue and I'm going to run it right across the end of that piece, all the way across. And then just set that down right about there. And if you feel like you need a dimensional up underneath there, by all means, see if we can get this one. I love that. Isn't that beautiful? Now everything's adhered, so now we can put our little snowflakes, stars, whatever you want to call them, we can put these on. So I'm going to grab my Take Your Pick tool because I need that putty side, and I am going to, I think these look more like stars now that I see them. But in the dies, they look like snowflakes. It's crazy. But whatever they are, we're going to scatter them. So I'm going to take and put just little dots of glue. And then I'm going to pick these up and just set them into that glue. And this can be a little, you know, a little fidgety to do, but it's also kind of therapeutic. And if you need a little bit more of your glue because you've got a few more to do, just come back in and put down your little dollops of glue, and then come back in and just continue to stick I love it. I think that's plenty. I think that looks really good, and I still got a few left over, so I wasn't sure exactly how many I would need, so I cut a little extra just in case. Alright, so now the next thing we're going to do is grab our card base, and I have just a white, thick, basic white cardstock, and look how pretty that's going to look on there. Isn't that gorgeous? I love this card. Like I said, I'd been wanting to use this for the longest kind of time, but I kept playing with it and I just wasn't pleased with what I did. And I was looking at Pinterest yesterday, and I was trying to figure out what am I going to do for my card for Tuesday. And I saw a picture of this barn on Pinterest, and they had colored it this color, but of course they didn't put the red on it. That's a Kathy touch, because you know a card's not a card without some red. I love myself some red. So there is this card all done. All I need to do now is cut a mat for the inside, and we already have one. So I'm going to cut this. Oh, it's already cut down. I don't have to do anything. I'm going to put this in, but before we do, we're also going to cut a piece of basic white. And this piece I need to be 3 3/4 or 3 3/4 inches. Three and 3/4. And we need it to be 5 inches this way. So this is going to be the piece for the inside, but I want to mat it because I think it just makes a card look richer. And I also want to stamp a sentiment inside. So I'm going to grab my Orchid Oasis, because that's the color I'm using on my cardstock. And I am going to go back in for my stamp set, Hope and Peace. As many of you know, this has been my all-time favorite stamp set that came out, and I love it for sentiments because I think it says everything. And for this one, I think I'm going to use Peace on Earth, Goodwill Toward All, or To All. So I'm going to take this and just center it up, maybe top center. And the good thing about these stamps, it doesn't matter if they're a little crooked because the font is kind of crooked. So the eye will play it off as though it's stamped correctly, even if you're off just a hair. So you don't have to worry so much about getting this perfect. So pretty. All right, let's go ahead and clean this stamp before we go any further because that is a dark ink. And stamp's clean. And now we're ready to put this on to our card base. So I'm going to just grab a little bit of glue. And then let's just place this on here and eyeball centering. And now this is ready to go inside of our card. So I am going to go ahead and put some liquid glue on the back of the mat. Y'all are probably thinking, oh my gosh, you're using so much glue. But in actuality, that's just a smidgen. I think the camera really does add to the amount of glue that we use. Whenever you're using liquid glue, remember, less is more, and it will hold it. Give that a good press, and there is our Christmas card, number 17, I believe. I believe it's 17, but it will be in the description as to which card this is. I think it turned out absolutely glorious. I love, love, love this card. I think it's absolutely beautiful, and I got to use my favorite stamp set, the Christmas Barn. I love it, love it, love it. So let me know in the comments what you think, and if this is a card that you would like to add to your Christmas list of cards made. And if you picked up this stamp set and just wasn't sure what to do with it, I'm hoping that I gave you some ideas today and some inspiration. God bless and keep you, and as I always say in closing, let everything that you do and say bring glory to our Father in heaven. He is worthy. Until we craft again, God bless and keep you. Bye-bye.